truth is, they fail because they never take small steps. I'm going to show you how I took my big dream and broke it into tiny, daily steps that changed my life. If you've ever felt stuck, lost, or scared to start, keep watching. And tell me in the comments, do you have a big dream you've been afraid to chase? Chapter 1: The Dream That Looked Impossible. I still remember the day I first saw my big goal. It wasn't something small or safe. It was big. It was bold. It was the kind of dream that makes your heart race, but also makes you doubt yourself at the same time. For me, that goal was to change my life by speaking English fluently. I wanted to travel. I wanted to talk to people from different countries. I wanted to understand movies without subtitles. I wanted to feel confident in every conversation. But when I looked at where I was, it felt impossible. I didn't just have a mountain to climb, I didn't even have the right shoes. I used to watch people who were already fluent, and I would think, they must be smarter than me. They must have started when they were young. They must have a special talent I don't have. My mind was filled with reasons why I could never do it. And the more I thought about how far I was from my goal, the heavier it felt. I told myself, maybe it's not for people like me. I didn't know it then, but those words were my biggest enemy. Some days I felt a burst of motivation. I would search for English learning videos, download apps, and tell myself, this time, I will do it. But the energy never lasted. A week later, I would be back to my old life, watching my dream from far away like it belonged to someone else. I was stuck in a cycle, dreaming, starting, stopping, and feeling guilty. And every time I quit, the goal felt even bigger, even heavier. There was also the pressure from the outside world. People around me would say things like, English is hard, or it's too late for you, or only rich people can learn well. Their words stayed in my head like a bad song that keeps playing again and again. I started to believe them. I thought maybe they were right, maybe this dream wasn't meant for me. And that's the moment I almost gave up completely. But something deep inside me refused to die. It was small, but it was there, a little voice saying, what if you could? That what if didn't go away. It followed me in quiet moments. When I saw someone ordering food confidently in English. When I heard a song and wished I could understand every word. When I passed by tourists laughing and talking, and I wished I could join their conversation. Those little moments reminded me why I wanted this in the first place. The problem was, I only looked at the mountain. I kept staring at the top, and because I couldn't see the path, I thought it didn't exist. I was so focused on the distance that I didn't take a single step forward. I was like someone standing at the start of a long road, frozen, waiting for a car to magically appear and take me there. But the truth I didn't want to admit was that nobody was coming to save me. Nobody was going to hand me fluency. If I wanted it, I had to walk. And here's the part that might surprise you. The thing that finally made me move wasn't a big, powerful change. It wasn't some magical teacher or expensive course. It was one small, almost invisible step. I didn't know it then, but that step would change everything. It would turn my impossible dream into something I could touch. But before I took that first step, I had to face myself. I had to admit that I was scared not just of failing, but of trying and finding out I wasn't good enough. That fear was heavy, but it was also a sign that my dream mattered to me more than I thought. And if it mattered, I couldn't let it die. This is where my story really begins, not at the top of the mountain, but at the very bottom, with no clear plan, no special talent, and no guarantee of success. Only a dream that looked impossible and a decision to take one step anyway. Chapter 2: The First Hard Truth. The day I learned the first hard truth, I was sitting alone in my room, staring at my notebook. It was almost empty, just a few English words I had written weeks ago. My dream of speaking English fluently still burned inside me, but it felt like the fire was running out of oxygen. I thought I was failing because my goal was too big, too far away. But then, something clicked in my mind. I realized I wasn't failing because the dream was too big. I was failing because I wasn't moving toward it at all. That's the first hard truth. Big goals are not reached in one giant leap. They are reached in hundreds of tiny, quiet steps. Steps so small, they almost feel like nothing is happening. But those are the steps that build the road to your dream. I had been waiting for some magical moment, some perfect time when I would feel ready to do everything at once. But that day never came, and it never would. I thought about all the times I had quit before. Every time, I had done the same thing. I tried to do too much, too fast. I would start with a huge plan, study for 3 hours every day, memorize hundreds of words, learn perfect grammar in a week. But life doesn't work like that. You can't lift a heavy weight if you've never trained your muscles. You can't run a marathon if you've never walked around the block. And you can't speak a new language perfectly if you've never even tried to say a sentence out loud. The more I thought about it, the more I understood. I was putting all my energy into thinking about the final goal instead of the next step. It was like standing at the foot of a mountain, staring at the top, and wondering why I felt tired before I even started climbing. I was carrying the weight of the whole journey in my head, instead of taking one small step with my feet. This truth wasn't easy to accept. In my heart, I still wanted fast results. I wanted to skip the slow part. I wanted to jump straight to fluency. But here's another truth: wanting it fast will slow you down, and accepting it slow will speed you up. I didn't want to hear it at first, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. Every skill, every dream, every big goal grows the same way. Little by little, day by day, choice by choice. That day, I made myself a promise. I said, I will stop dreaming about the finish line and start walking the track. I will focus on what I can do today, not everything I have to do forever. It was a quiet decision, but it was powerful. It felt like I had been standing in a dark room for years and suddenly opened a window. When you accept the first hard truth, something amazing happens. You stop feeling powerless. You stop feeling like you're trapped by the size of your dream. Instead, you see that every small action counts. You stop asking, "Can I do it?" and start asking, "What can I do right now?" That question changes everything. I wish I could tell you that this truth made the journey easy. It didn't. There were still hard days, still moments of doubt, still times I wanted to stop. But now, I had something I didn't have before. I knew the secret. And when you know the secret, you can't ignore it. I knew that if I kept taking small steps, no matter how slow they felt, I would get closer to my dream. And that was enough to keep me moving. This was the moment my journey truly began, not in a burst of motivation, but in a calm, steady choice to move forward one step at a time. I didn't need to see the whole staircase. I only needed to see the next step. Chapter 3: My First Small Step. The morning I took my first real step toward my dream didn't feel special at all. The sun was shining like any other day. The world outside looked the same. But something inside me was different. I had decided no matter how small, I would take action today. No more waiting for a perfect moment. No more telling myself, "I'll start tomorrow." My tomorrow had finally become today. The step I took was so small, you might even laugh. I didn't join a big course. I didn't buy expensive books. I didn't spend hours studying. All I did was choose 5 simple English words and say them out loud, slowly, one by one. At first, it felt almost silly. How could 5 little words possibly get me to my big goal? But then, something strange happened. As I spoke them, I felt a spark inside. It wasn't a huge fire yet, but it was enough to warm me, enough to remind me that movement, any movement, is better than standing still. I repeated those words again and again, letting my mouth get used to the shape of them, letting my tongue learn the dance of a new language. And in that moment, I realized something important. My dream didn't need me to jump to the top. It needed me to take the first step and then keep walking. And this was my very first step. At first, my mind tried to play tricks on me. This is too small, it whispered. This won't make a difference. But I ignored it. I told myself, 5 words today are better than 0 words for another year. The more I said them, the more natural they began to feel. I started to see that every big achievement is really just a collection of tiny actions, done again and again until they become part of you. I also learned something else, that day confidence comes from doing, not from thinking about doing. Before, I had spent months imagining myself speaking English. I pictured the perfect moment when I would feel ready. But the truth is, that moment never came, and it never would have until I opened my mouth and actually spoke. When I finished my little practice, I smiled to myself. It was the first time in a long time that I felt proud, even if my progress was invisible to anyone else. And here's the part that surprised me the most. Instead of feeling tired after practicing, I felt more energy. I wanted to do it again tomorrow. I wanted to learn more words. I wanted to keep the promise I made to myself in Chapter 2. That night, I wrote those 5 words in my notebook and drew a little star next to them. That star wasn't just for the words, it was for me. It was my way of saying, you started. You kept your word. And from that day on, my notebook started to fill up, page by page, star by star. If I could tell you just one thing from this chapter, it's this: your first step doesn't have to impress anyone but yourself. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Because once you take that first step, the second step becomes easier, and the third easier still. And before you know it, you've built a road to your dream, not in one giant leap, but in the quiet rhythm of small, steady steps. That day, I didn't just learn 5 English words. I learned that I could move forward. And that is a lesson that stays with you forever. Chapter 4: The Power of Just 10 Minutes. When people think about reaching a big goal, they imagine long hours, hard work, and constant effort. I used to think that too. In my mind, success meant spending hours every day, pushing myself until I was tired, and working so hard that I almost hated the process. And because I believed that, I never started, because I thought I didn't have the time or the energy for that kind of work. But then I discovered something that completely changed the way I saw progress. It happened on a day when I was feeling tired and didn't want to practice at all. My brain told me, you can't do much today, so just skip it. But I didn't want to break my promise to myself. So I made a deal: I would practice for just 10 minutes. No more, no less. At first, it didn't feel like much. 10 minutes is nothing compared to the hours I thought I needed. But I told myself, this is better than nothing. So I set a timer and started. And something magical happened. The timer went off, but I didn't want to stop. I had started speaking, listening, and enjoying the process. 10 minutes turned into 15, then 20. By the time I was done, I felt proud. I had practiced without feeling overwhelmed. That day taught me something powerful. You don't need to do everything at once, you just need to start. 10 minutes a day doesn't sound like much, but if you do it every day, it adds up to hours, weeks, and months of progress. Those 10 minutes are the doorway to something bigger. They remove the fear of starting, and once you start, it's easier to keep going. I began to use this 10-minute rule every day. Some days I only did 10 minutes, and that was okay. Other days, those 10 minutes grew into longer sessions because I was already in the flow. It felt different from before. I no longer dreaded learning. I didn't feel the weight of a huge, scary goal pressing on me. Instead, I focused on something so small and so simple that I couldn't make excuses to avoid it. This is why the 10-minute habit works so well. It's not about how much you do in one day, but about showing up every day. 10 minutes doesn't give your brain time to argue. It's too small to be scary, but it's big enough to create progress. And progress, even in small amounts, builds motivation. Every time I finished my 10 minutes, I felt a little stronger, a little closer to my dream. I started to realize that learning English or achieving any big goal is not about one huge push of effort. It's about building a chain of small actions that never break. And the 10-minute rule was my chain. I didn't let a single day pass without touching my dream. Even if I was tired, even if I was busy, even if I didn't feel like it. 10 minutes was my promise to myself, and keeping that promise made me believe in myself more and more. Over time, those 10 minutes changed me. They changed my skill, they changed my confidence, and they changed the way I saw my dream. The mountain no longer looked impossible because I was climbing it step by step, 10 minutes at a time. Looking back, I think the most beautiful thing about the 10-minute habit is that it removes the pressure. It tells you, you don't have to do everything today, but you have to do something. And that something is what moves you forward while everyone else is still waiting for the perfect moment. Chapter 5: Building a Routine Without Stress. When I first started learning, every practice session felt like a battle. I had to fight my own excuses, fight my tiredness, fight the voice in my head that said, "You can skip today." It was exhausting. I felt like I was pushing a heavy rock up a hill every single time. But something began to change after a few weeks of sticking to my small steps and 10-minute practice rule. That change was the beginning of something I didn't expect: a routine that didn't feel like hard work. At first, I didn't even notice it happening. I would wake up, get ready, and naturally reach for my notebook or turn on an English video without thinking too much about it. It wasn't a big, dramatic moment. It was quiet, almost invisible. But it was powerful, because that's how real habits are born. You stop forcing yourself, and you start doing it as naturally as brushing your teeth or making your morning tea. This was when I realized that stress-free routines are built slowly, like planting seeds in a garden. You don't shout at the seeds to grow. You water them every day, give them light, and trust the process. My 10 minutes of English each day were my water and sunlight. And over time, my mind stopped seeing them as work and started seeing them as a normal part of my life. The best part was that it didn't feel heavy anymore. I wasn't waking up thinking, "I have to practice English today." Instead, I woke up thinking, "Of course I will practice, it's just what I do." That small shift in thinking changed everything. I no longer needed to force myself. The habit had taken root, And my effort was no longer about starting, it was about continuing. There's a secret here that I wish I had learned sooner. When you build a routine slowly, you remove the stress that kills motivation. So many people burn out because they try to do too much, too fast. They turn learning into a chore. And when something feels like a chore, your brain will look for ways to avoid it. But when it feels like part of your life, like breathing or walking, you stop fighting yourself. I kept my routine simple. Every morning, I listened to something in English while I drank my tea. In the afternoon, I wrote a short diary entry. At night, I practiced speaking out loud for a few minutes. None of these things felt big on their own, but together, they built a structure in my day that supported my dream without taking away my energy. And here's the magic: once my routine became natural, it actually started to grow on its own. I would plan for 10 minutes, but sometimes I'd go for 20 or 30 without noticing the time. I started adding new activities because I wanted to, not because I had to. The routine became like a strong foundation for a house. I could build as many floors as I wanted, but even if I kept it simple, the foundation was still there, holding everything up. Looking back now, I see that this was one of the most important stages in my journey. Building a routine without stress didn't just make me more consistent, it made me enjoy learning. And when you enjoy something, you keep doing it. When you keep doing it, you improve. And when you improve, your dream gets closer every single day. Chapter 6: The day I nearly quit. It was a rainy evening, and the sky outside was dark, even though it was still early. I sat at my desk with my notebook open, but I couldn't write a single word. My pen felt heavy in my hand, my mind was blank, and my heart felt heavier than both. For weeks, I had been practicing every day, keeping my small steps, keeping my routine. But suddenly, it felt like all my effort was useless. I thought, why am I doing this? That day had been full of little failures. In the morning, I had tried to speak to someone in English, and they didn't understand me. I had to repeat myself twice, and even then, they looked confused. I walked away feeling embarrassed, my cheeks hot, my confidence gone. In the afternoon, I watched a video in English, but I couldn't understand more than a few words. Every sentence felt like a wall I couldn't climb. By the time evening came, I felt like my dream was laughing at me from far away, too far for me to reach. I remember putting my head in my hands and thinking about stopping. I told myself, maybe I'm just not good at this. Maybe I'm wasting my time. Maybe all these small steps don't matter. That's the thing about bad days, they make you forget every good day you've ever had. They make you forget the progress you've made and only see the distance you still have to go. But as I sat there, ready to close my notebook and give up, something unexpected happened. My eyes fell on one page, a page from my first week. On it were the first 5 words I had ever learned in this journey. They looked so small on the page, but when I saw them, a memory came rushing back: the day I took my very first step. I remembered how proud I felt for starting, how much hope I had in my heart. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. I had already come too far to go back. Giving up would mean throwing away not just today, but all the days before. It would mean breaking the promise I made to myself. And I didn't want to be that person anymore, the person who always started but never finished. I wanted to be the person who kept going, even when it was hard, even when it was slow, even when nobody could see the progress. So, I made a deal with myself. I didn't need to do a big study session that night. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to do something. I picked one short English sentence and practiced saying it out loud. Just one sentence, again and again, until the words felt comfortable in my mouth. It wasn't much, but it was enough to remind me that I was still in the game. That night taught me one of the most important lessons in life. The day you feel like quitting is the day you must not quit, because those are the days that build strength. Anyone can keep going when things are easy, but when things are hard, when your heart feels heavy, when your dream feels far away, that's when real progress is made. And so, I closed my notebook with a small smile. I hadn't done a lot that day, but I had done enough. And sometimes, enough is exactly what you need to keep the dream alive. Chapter 7: The Unexpected Wins. A strange thing happens when you keep going, even after the hard days. You don't notice it at first. You keep taking your small steps, practicing your 10 minutes, keeping your routine. Most days feel the same, like drops of water falling into a bucket. You can't see the difference from one drop to the next. But one day, without warning, the bucket is suddenly heavier. One day, without planning, you realize something has changed. That day came to me in the most ordinary way. I was in a small shop, buying something simple, when the shopkeeper asked me a question in English. My heart jumped, like it always did in these moments. But I opened my mouth and answered. The words came out smooth, without me even thinking about them. And here's the best part: he understood me. No confused look, no asking me to repeat. Just a smile and a reply in English. It was such a small thing, but it felt huge. I walked out of that shop feeling like I had just climbed a mountain. I couldn't stop smiling. That tiny conversation was proof that all my quiet work was working. I didn't need to see the progress every day to know it was there. Moments like this would find me when I least expected them. After that, I began to notice other little wins. I could watch a short video in English and understand more than before. I could read a sentence without stopping at every single word. I could remember words I had learned weeks ago without looking in my notebook. These were not big, dramatic victories. Nobody clapped for me. Nobody made a big announcement. But I felt them deeply, and they gave me more motivation than anything else. The beautiful thing about unexpected wins is that they come naturally when you keep moving forward. You don't have to chase them, they appear in your path like flowers growing in the cracks of the road. And every time you see one, you feel stronger. You realize that you're no longer the same person who started this journey. You're someone who can do things you couldn't do before, even if they're small. Sometimes I would sit at my desk at night and think about these moments. I would remember the shopkeeper's smile, the time I understood a joke in English, the day I read something without using a dictionary. These memories became my fuel. They reminded me that progress isn't always loud or fast. Sometimes it's quiet, gentle, and hidden until the moment it decides to show itself. And maybe that's the best kind of progress, because it teaches you patience. It shows you that good things don't need to happen right away to be worth it. They will come when you're ready. And when they do, you'll appreciate them even more. That's why I learned to celebrate every win, no matter how small. Because every win means you're moving. Every win means your small steps are working. And every win, expected or not, takes you one step closer to the dream that once felt impossible. Chapter 8: People started noticing. For a long time, my progress was invisible. I was practicing every day, speaking to myself, writing in my notebook, and listening to English whenever I could. But to the outside world, it looked like nothing had changed. Nobody could see the hours I was putting in. Nobody saw the moments I struggled, or the times I wanted to quit. It was my quiet, personal journey, and I didn't mind that nobody noticed. I was doing it for me. But one afternoon, something happened that made my heart skip a beat. I was talking to a friend, and in the middle of our conversation, she stopped, tilted her head, and said, "Wait, your English sounds different. Better." At first, I didn't believe her. I laughed it off and said, "Really?" But she nodded and told me I was speaking more smoothly, with more confidence. I didn't know it, but all those small steps I had been taking were finally showing on the outside. That moment stayed with me for days. It felt different from the little wins I had with myself. This time, someone else saw it. And hearing it from another person made me realize something powerful sometimes. We are the last ones to see our own growth. We think we're moving too slowly, that nothing is changing. But to others, the difference is clear. After that, I started hearing similar comments from other people. A coworker said I spoke more clearly in our meeting. A shop assistant told me my pronunciation was really good. Even a stranger I met online told me I sounded confident. These comments were small, but they felt huge. It was like the world was finally catching up to the progress I had been making in private. The best part was that these moments didn't just make me feel good, they pushed me to keep going. Every time someone noticed, it was like fuel for my journey. I thought, if they can see improvement now, imagine what they'll see in another month or another year. That thought made me excited to keep practicing, to keep building my skills, even on the days when it felt slow. There's something magical about being recognized for your effort. Not because you need other people's approval, but because it confirms what you've been hoping all along, that your hard work is paying off, that you are moving forward, even if the steps are small. I also realized something else. When people see your progress, they start to believe in you. And when they believe in you, you start to believe in yourself even more. It's a beautiful cycle. The more you grow, the more they notice, and the more they notice, the more you want to grow. Looking back, I think these moments were more than just compliments. They were reminders that change is real, that no matter how invisible it feels at first, it will show. And when it does, it will not only inspire you, it might inspire the people watching you too. Chapter 9: Turning Struggles into Strength. When I look back at my journey now, I realize something that I couldn't see before. Every struggle I went through was secretly building my strength. At the time, it didn't feel that way. At the time, the struggles felt like walls blocking my path. Every mistake, every moment of embarrassment, every day I didn't understand the words in front of me, all of it felt like proof that I wasn't good enough. But now I see it differently. Those walls weren't there to stop me. They were there to make me climb, to make me stronger. I remember the early days when speaking even one sentence in English felt like carrying a heavy bag up a steep hill. My mouth couldn't form the words the way I wanted. My mind froze when I tried to speak. I made mistakes, sometimes so simple that I laughed at myself later. But every one of those mistakes was teaching me something. Every wrong word showed me the right one. Every awkward pause taught me how to keep going even when I didn't know what to say. The struggles also taught me patience. Before, I wanted everything fast. I thought if I worked hard for a short time, I would get results quickly. But the truth is, real growth takes time, and struggles force you to slow down and focus on what matters. They make you pay attention. They teach you that it's okay to move forward step by step, because rushing only makes the road longer in the end. I think about the times I felt embarrassed when someone didn't understand me. Those moments hurt back then. But now, I see that they prepared me for real conversations in the future. They taught me not to be afraid of being misunderstood, because I learned how to repeat, explain, or try again without giving up. That's not just a language skill, that's a life skill. One of the most important lessons I learned was that struggles make success feel sweeter. If everything came easily, I wouldn't value it as much. But because I had to fight for every small win, those wins became treasures. They reminded me of the times I kept going when it would have been easier to quit. They showed me that my progress was not luck, it was earned. And here's something I want you to remember. Your struggles are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you are moving, learning, and growing. Every time you face a challenge and keep going, you are training yourself for bigger challenges in the future. You are building a kind of strength that no shortcut can give you. Now, when I face something hard, whether it's in English or in life, I don't panic like I used to. I know I've been through hard things before, and I've come out stronger. The same mistakes that once made me feel small now make me feel proud, because they are the reason I can stand where I am today. So, I no longer run from struggles. I welcome them, because I know that somewhere inside them, there is a lesson waiting for me. And that lesson will help me climb even higher toward my dream. Chapter 10: The Big Goal Feels Closer. When I first began this journey, my big goal felt like a faraway star, beautiful to look at, but impossible to touch. I could only admire it from a distance. Every time I thought about it, it seemed so far that it almost didn't feel real. I told myself it would take years, maybe forever, to get anywhere close. That thought made me slow, made me hesitate, made me wonder if it was even worth trying. But now, something has changed. I can feel it every time I speak without fear. I can hear it when I understand words that used to confuse me. I can see it when I look back at the person I was at the start, nervous, unsure, and too afraid to take even the smallest step. My dream is no longer a tiny dot in the sky. It's closer now. Close enough that I can see its shape. Close enough that I can imagine touching it one day. It didn't happen all at once. There was no sudden magic moment. It was slow and quiet, like watching the sunrise. You don't notice the light changing until suddenly the world is bright. That's how it felt. The daily steps, the small wins, the lessons from my struggles, they all added up until one day I realized I wasn't standing in the same place anymore. I was much further along the road than I thought. I remember walking home one evening after practicing with a friend. I wasn't thinking about progress. I was just enjoying the conversation we had. But then it hit me months ago. I would never have been able to speak like that, to understand so much, to feel so comfortable. I stopped in the middle of the street, smiling to myself. This was proof. My big goal wasn't just a dream anymore. It was something I was living, piece by piece. That realization changed everything. I no longer saw my dream as a giant mountain I had to climb all at once. I saw it as a series of hills, and I had already crossed many of them. Each small step had brought me closer, even when I didn't notice it happening. And knowing that gave me more energy to keep going. This is why I want you to remember progress often feels invisible until it becomes undeniable. One day, you'll wake up and realize that something that used to feel impossible is now part of your normal life. And when that day comes, you'll understand that the distance between you and your goal isn't as big as it used to be. Now, when I think about my dream, I don't feel fear. I feel excitement. I don't think about how far away it is. I think about how close I've already come. And that thought makes me want to move faster, to push harder, to enjoy the journey even more. Because the big goal I once thought was untouchable is no longer just a star in the sky, it's a destination I can see right in front of me. Chapter 11, Helping Others on the Same Path. There comes a moment in every journey when you look back and realize you are not the same person who started. You are stronger, more confident, and more capable than you thought. But there is another moment that feels even more powerful, the moment you realize you can help someone else walk the same path. That moment came to me quietly, but it changed the way I saw my own dream forever. One day, a friend came to me and said, "I want to learn English like you, but I don't know where to start." I could see the same uncertainty in her eyes that I had in mine when I began. She reminded me of myself, full of hope, but also full of fear. She thought it was too late, that she wasn't smart enough, that the road was too long. And as I listened to her, I felt something inside me shift. I realized I had something valuable, not just knowledge, but experience. I knew how it felt to be at the beginning. I knew the mistakes to avoid, the habits to build, the truth about small steps. So I told her my story. I told her about my first 5 words, my 10-minute rule, my routine, and my struggles. I told her how I nearly quit, but kept going. I didn't try to sound perfect or make it seem easy. I told her the truth, that it's hard, but it's possible, and that the most important thing is to just begin. Her eyes lit up, and I could see hope returning. Helping her gave me a feeling I had never experienced before. It wasn't just pride, it was joy. Joy in knowing that my journey could be more than just about me. Joy in realizing that the road I had walked could now be easier for someone else because of what I had learned. That joy made me want to help more people, even strangers. Soon, I started sharing my tips online, answering questions, and encouraging other learners. Sometimes it was just a small comment like, "Don't give up, you're doing better than you think." Other times, it was sharing a method that had worked for me. And every time I helped someone, I felt more connected to my own journey. It reminded me of where I started, and it kept me humble and grateful. I began to see that helping others is not just about giving them knowledge, it's about giving them belief. Because when someone believes in you, it's easier to believe in yourself. And when you give that belief to another person, you're giving them the most valuable gift in the world. Now, I see my dream differently. Yes, I still want to keep improving my English, but my goal has grown bigger. I don't just want to reach the top of my own mountain, I want to send down my hand and pull others up too. Because every person who starts their journey with hope is proof that the dream is alive and spreading. And here's the beautiful truth. Helping others doesn't slow you down. It makes you stronger. It keeps you motivated. It reminds you that your struggles had a purpose. Because every challenge you overcame is now a lesson you can share. And those lessons might be the reason someone else keeps going when they feel like quitting. Chapter 12, My Big Goal and Your Small Steps. When I look back at where I started, I see a person who had a dream so big it felt impossible. I see the fear, the doubt, the excuses. I see the days when I wanted to quit, the mistakes that made me feel small, and the nights when I wondered if I was wasting my time. But I also see something else, the small steps. The first 5 words I learned. The 10 minutes I promised myself every day. The routine that grew quietly. The little wins that gave me hope. The people who noticed my progress. The struggles that became my strength. And now, I see how every single one of those moments brought me here. My big goal is not finished yet, and maybe it never will be. Because the truth is, big goals are not destinations you reach and stop. They are journeys you keep walking. My English still improves every day, and I still find new challenges. But now I welcome them. I no longer see my dream as far away. I see it right in front of me, waiting for me to keep going. And this is the part one want you to hear clearly. You don't need to be ready. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have the whole plan figured out. You only need one thing: the courage to take your first small step. That's it. That's how everything begins. Maybe your big goal is to speak English confidently. Maybe it's to get a better job, to travel, to study abroad, to connect with people from around the world. Whatever it is, I promise you these small steps will take you further than big dreams with no action. You don't have to do everything today. You just have to do something today. I'm telling you this because I know how it feels to think you're too far from your goal. I know how it feels to compare yourself to others and feel behind. But your journey is not theirs. You have your own pace, your own path, your own story. And every day you take a small step, you are writing a better ending for that story. So here's my challenge to you before today ends. Take one small step toward your dream. Learn 5 new words. Speak one sentence out loud. Write one line in your notebook. Listen to something in English for just 10 minutes. It doesn't matter how small it is, what matters is that you do it. Because once you take the first step, the second will be easier, and before you know it, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. This is my big goal: to keep moving forward, to keep growing, and to help as many people as I can along the way. And now, I want your big goal to start with your small step. You have everything you need already inside you. Don't wait for tomorrow. Begin today. And when you do, remember it's not about speed, it's about direction. As long as you're moving toward your dream, no matter how slowly, you are winning. And one day, you'll wake up and realize your impossible goal is now your reality. If my story inspired you, subscribe to this channel for more simple, powerful lessons that will help you grow your English and your confidence. Like this video to show your support, and comment below the first small step you're taking today toward your big goal. Your dream is waiting. Start now.